Okay, so get this. It's a Sunday. I'm sitting around working on stuff when I get an email. It's Pokemon. Hey Lucy, we're having a community day down at our office in London. Wanna come down and play some Let's Go? Hells yeah. Oh, by the way, it's on Tuesday. Sure. And that's the story of how I booked another trip to London in 24 hours. But seriously, I cannot thank Pokemon and Nintendo enough for setting this event up. Now that I've actually had some hands-on experience with the game, I thought it'd be cool to make one more video before they actually come out. First, I gotta tell you about Pokemon HQ though. They have this wall of plushies and TCG products that made my inner collector pass out a good few times in shock. One of the Pokemon reps told me that these models are the only ones in the world made specifically for the UK office, and I just can't. They also had these frames of custom uncut sheets of Pokemon cards in Pokédex order from all different sets in different languages. Again, probably the only thing like this in the world. But let's get on to the game. So we were allowed to play from the beginning of the game up to the Boulder Badge. Right away, the first thing I noticed is how much more cinematic these games are in comparison to the originals. To be fair, Pokemon have been going in that direction since Gen 6 really, but it's a lot more noticeable when you have a direct point of contrast. The graphics are absolutely gorgeous. Obviously the Switch is capable of a lot more than the 3DS, but they have gone for a less realistic approach than in Sun and Moon for the most part. But honestly, I prefer this. The more realistic colours and landscapes almost threw me off a bit at times, but the colours are super vibrant here and I just like the art style a lot more. The music is gorgeous. I know we've heard little bits in trailers already, but hearing it for yourself is a completely different experience. Look at my notes for this bit. Look at them. After getting the Boulder Badge, we were allowed to play in Route 6 and use the multiplayer feature, and it's just fun. Like I said in the last video, Pokemon has always been about the connective experience that you share with other players, so this is just another step in that direction. I do still wonder if there's going to be any restrictions on it. For example, can you use multiplayer during very plot-important battles? I personally don't want it to be too intrusive, since I think those battles are better experience on your own, but to each their own. Something a lot of people have been worried about from the beginning is how difficult will these games be, and how much influence will they have taken from Go. And after having hands-on experience, I can definitely tell you that these games are far more like the main series than Go. So far, the only parallel I can draw would be Wild Encounters. That's it. Raspberries still have the same functionality as Go, and Pineapps now make the Pokemon more likely to drop items after battle. Lures are pretty much the same, and that's about it. It's more or less confirmed that you can only encounter wild Pokemon through the overworld. I had mixed feelings on this, but it's not that different from regular encounters, because they'll spawn as you're walking, and you'll still get into a lot of surprise battles. Even from the tiny amount of the game that I've played so far, I can say that the Pokemon distributions are going to be very different. Don't get me started on Route 6. That place now has Jigglypuff, Vulpix, and even Chansey, which, come to think of it, seeing as the Safari Zone isn't a thing anymore, that means all the Pokemon from there are gonna be spread through Kanto. Huh. I believe that there may be some sort of chaining feature in these games. Don't take my word as gospel, but when we were playing through Route 6, one of the reps said maybe, just maybe, catching Pokemon of the same species in a combo might help us find the rare Pokemon there, which turned out to be Chansey. I didn't find it, but it did make me wonder if there is something to gain by chain catching Pokemon. Shiny hunting, methinks. I think that in regard to difficulty, these games are probably going to be a lot more handholdy than Gen 1. It's hard to say since pretty much all Pokemon games have some degree of handholding at the start of the game, but there were little things that I noticed, like more rival appearances, not so subtly telling you where to go all the time, warping you from place to place, and then there's the whole grass and water requirement for Pewter Gym. Though, to be fair, I'd be surprised if that carried over to the later gyms. Pewter Gym was always particularly hard early game, especially if you chose Charmander. I think that's why they gave it Metal Claw in Gen 3 to give it a better chance. I just see this as another push for newer players that might need it, but I definitely won't lose sleep over it. A good point to take is that Let's Go is absolutely what you would call a gateway game. Even though to regular fans, these games have been stripped down to the absolute basics, no held items, no abilities, and so on. For the larger Go audience that Game Freak is trying to entice, probably going to be a very good stepping stone between Go and the 2019 title, which I assume will have the more complex mechanics. I see a lot of people worried that Let's Go is going to set a series standard, but I'd be surprised if anything really trickled over into Gen 8. maybe at a push they might carry the new battle mechanics over, but after trying it out, it's actually pretty fun, so I don't know if I'd care. And by the looks of it, legendaries do retain the traditional battle system for part of the battle, and once they faint, you catch it the same way as the rest of the Pokemon in-game, which, to be honest, is a pretty fair compromise. I'm sure for the more competitive side of the community, it might be a little disheartening, but these games definitely aren't made with the competitive scene in mind. They're made for the more casual players. Bear in mind, I have very minimal knowledge on this front, so take it as an outsider's perspective. VGC 2019 is still just Ultra Sun and Moon. They really aren't meant to be competitive games, or at least not in the same way as previous titles. Something very nitpicky that bothers me a little bit is that you can get Pikachu in Viridian Forest at the beginning of the game. I know the partner Pikachu is different because of the special moves and abilities, but it just seems a little weird that they're there before you even get the first badge. And it's a little unbalanced, unless they decide to put Eevee in the wild too. It might seem like a strange nitpick, but Pikachu was removed from the wild entirely in Yellow, so I know my thought process isn't completely off. I'm not against getting more than one Pikachu because obviously you can't evolve your starter, but it just seems weird to me that they're available so early on. Something I personally was worried about was how I would feel playing Pokemon on a home console, when it's always been a handheld game. I only used the Pokeball Plus as the controller when I was playing. It took a little bit of getting used to, but it's surprisingly comfortable to use. The thing is, I didn't feel like I was playing Pokemon on the Switch. I just felt like I was playing Pokemon, if that makes any sense at all. The presentation of these games is right in line with the series standard, which gives older players like me that sense of familiarity. For example, I touched on this in the last video, but Let's Go is still pretty reliant on sprites, despite being a fully 3D game. All the menu previews and items have sprites, and it fits right in. Like this new item that I found in Pewter City, the Pewter Crunchies. It looks like Pewter City's equivalent to stuff like the Castelia Cone or the Lumio Skelette, but it has its own little sprite. I like that! It's hard to tell since I only played the beginning of the game, where the majority of the NPCs basically tell you how the game works, but I have faith that there's going to be a lot to explore in these games and interesting people to talk to. Maybe even something akin to Ultra Sun and Moon side quests, if the Slowpoke lady in Pewter is anything to go by. My favourite quote so far was the science guy in Pallet Town now talking about how technology is incredible, since you can now transfer data from your smartphone to your game console. Hey! There's so much detail, and I felt like with every house I went in there was something interesting to look at. But in conclusion, I was looking forward to playing Let's Go before, and getting to see some sneak peeks has only made me want to play it more. I can't thank Pokemon and Nintendo enough for inviting me out to play these games. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I'd be lucky enough to do that. But there we go! A video! Woo! Again, sorry I've been bad with uploads. I was sick on and off for about a month, so yeah, things were slow, and I'm sorry. I've been working very hard on a big project for this channel, but it's not quite done yet. Thanks for your patience. I'm gonna get it done before Let's Go comes out though. No worries. When we were playing the games, they came round and gave us freaking croissants, and I had one of those moments. I'm eating croissants with Pokemon officials and playing games that haven't even come out yet. How did I get here? If I could take a picture from the future and send it to my 10-year-old self. Hey Lucy, you may not be cool now, but in 10 years... Sorry, you still won't be cool, but look at this! Obvious statement is obvious, but I wouldn't be getting these opportunities if it weren't for all of you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Okay, bye!